Greetings and salutations, folks. I hope all is well, and welcome to this second bonus. The bonus that gets us almost to Saturday Nightmares live from upstate New York. Before we jump into this bonus, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to tonight's second bonus, shall we?
Hey Jeff, I was about 25 at the time, living in San Diego County, where I still reside today. This would have put it about the year of 2003. The company I worked for at the time sent myself and a coworker, who was also a friend of mine, out to Palm Desert for a few days to do a job. We usually didn't have to travel very far, but we had a high-end client out there. So the drive, hotel fees, including any meals we had, were worth the trip. I had to tie a few loose ends up before I could get started, so my coworker, who we'll call Stan, drove out separately. The plan was for him to check into the hotel, and I would meet with him later in the early evening. I had only driven this route once before, so I printed out maps with the directions to get there, as smartphones didn't really exist yet, and of course I didn't have a GPS. After all this was taken care of, I started on my way, heading up the 15 freeway. I was supposed to take the 79 South exit, then another turn onto a different route to link up with the 74, which headed straight to Palm Desert. But I missed the exit and stupidly kept going and took the 79 North instead. I realized my mistake when I came to a town called Hemet. The next transition was to the 74, so I decided to take it. It was a big backtrack. I basically was doing a sort of loop. This part of the 74 headed up through San Bernardino Mountains to get back to where I originally should have been. I was mad at myself for making such a mistake, but at least I'm back on the right track. So I called Stan and told him what I had done, and I was going to be a bit later than planned. He just laughed and said he'd pick up some beer and some burgers for me when I arrived. After a short stretch of windy roads, the road straightened out a bit. It was sometime in spring, and there was still some patches of snow on the ground here and there. As I climbed the elevation, the trees were getting a bit thicker. It was before dusk and still bright outside, but the sun had set below the tree line. I flipped on my lights just in case, because of the mountain road. Safety first, right? This is where it gets interesting. I came around a slight bend and the road was fairly straight. One lane in each direction. There were no cars in front of me, but one car tailing me quite a bit back. Then I saw something come from left of the road onto the middle of the road. It was about an estimation, 150 yards down. It walked on all fours onto the road. At first I thought it was a black bear, as they are known to be in these mountains. I got excited, as I'd never encountered a bear before, even while I had been camping in bear country many times. But as I got closer, I noticed it wasn't the color of a bear. It also had a tail. It looked more like a large wolf. As I got even closer, I could see it kind of had medium tannish brown fur with gray mixed in with it, kind of like a German Shepherd, but with some gray evenly mixed with the tan and brown. It had a long snout like a wolf or maybe a Malamute, very tall ears just like a wolf. I quickly thought to myself I didn't think there were wolves in these mountains, just your normal mountain critters. As I got about 50 yards from it, the part I will always remember, it stood up. It stood up and turned to look and see what was coming at it. By my estimation, it was tall, maybe 7 feet, I'd guess. Way bigger than any dog I'd ever seen. It stared as I kept coming closer and closer, then abruptly turned and ran quickly on 2 legs that looked just like dog legs, but it had long, more human-looking arms. It leaned forward as it took just 2 steps and leaped over a ditch on the right, like a basketball player jumping from one leg to dunk a basketball. Then just disappeared into the brush and trees. My first thought was, holy crap, I just saw a werewolf. I'd never heard of a Dogman at that time. Just what you see in the movies. The way it moved on 2 legs, though, and leapt over that ditch effortlessly. The thing was, it didn't look aggressive. Looks like it was just thinking, oh crap, what's that coming? Didn't have yellow or glowing eyes. It didn't chase the car. It didn't seem aggressive at all. I don't know. It just seemed like it wanted to have nothing to do with this thing coming at it as much as I didn't want to have anything to do with it. Now, I didn't tell Stan as I was afraid of being ridiculed, but I saw what I saw. And still to this day wonder if the car far behind me saw it as well. Today's second subscriber, California submission. Hey Jeff, just a short story I've kept to myself since the incident happened back in 1989. I was visiting my relatives outside of Nevada City, California. We were there for a cousin's wedding. I had flown down the day before and met with many relatives and was enjoying the festivities. The property was off of 2 logging roads that intersected a corner lot. The area was all timber and brush. This area was the heart of the gold mining industry in the 1850s. Anyhow, the following morning I got up and made my way to the kitchen to make some coffee for us early risers, and soon breakfast was over. Anyone awake to do their chores for the wedding, which was going to be performed on the huge lawn out front. Tables were set up, seats were positioned, etc. By 1 it had quieted down, so we decided to head out for a 7-mile run. Putting my running shoes on, and off I went. About a mile from the house on the left side of the road was a driveway parallel to the logging road that dipped down to a flat piece of ground, and at another end it rose back up to meet the road. On the property was a trailer mobile home. It had a large German Shepherd, probably the largest I had ever seen, well over 125 pounds. This Shepherd was on a cable runner, I'm guessing a 1/4 inch in diameter. Needless to say, I was not confident in the cable holding this huge dog from breaking loose and chasing me. 20 steps later, I was past the other end and concentrating on my pace. At an old Chinese encampment was my turnaround, almost 3 miles away from my cousin's house. I turned and picked up my pace. I was feeling really good at this point. About 1/8 of a mile from the driveway with the Shepherd, I could hear the dog clearly going off. I'm thinking he can't possibly be hearing my footsteps just yet, so I moved to the opposite side of the road. On my left, the grade went up. From the road to the brush was about 30 feet higher than I. Now, I'm at the right entrance of the driveway, and the dog's not looking at me or barking at me. At that, I turned around to see what this Shepherd was barking at. I looked over my left shoulder, and there was the back end of this animal. I caught it just as it crested the 30-foot embankment and only saw it mid-body to the head of its tail. At first, I thought it was a mountain lion, but after I thought for a second, it was on 2 legs. It was bipedal. It was a 2-tone gray color, and the most muscular animal I had ever seen. I've seen lions, I've seen tigers. This was way more muscular. I can't tell you for sure what it was. My senses took hold at that point, and I can assure you, I broke the world record running that last mile to my cousin's house. I laugh about it now, but my fear factor at that point was the highest I had ever felt it. I've gone over the scene in my mind over the years, trying to rationalize what I had seen. Had it not gotten up on its hind legs, I would have just thought it was a mountain lion. And, by the way, after thinking about it, the shepherd probably saved my life, perhaps distracting whatever it was. I did go back there the following day to look for tracks, and the only one I could find was a part of a paw print that had been covered over by a logging truck or a trailer tire. I looked as well right where it had crested the grade and found nothing. Today's third subscriber submission is a little different. He sent me the encounter. This is probably right around the time I started my channel, maybe 6 months. And we had actually communicated back and forth on Messenger. He sent me some pictures that he had found of what he and I both believed to be Dogman nests. What you are looking at on this upload, this picture, is a Dogman nest that he found. I've been experiencing some sort of strange creature in the forest by my grandparents' house. I also found a bear paw that we believe was left by this monster. So let me start off by saying I'm not a spiritual person. I don't believe in monsters. Well, I didn't until this happened. When I was younger, I would spend a lot of time in the woods. My grandparents' property is in the mountains in California. I forgot about this until just something else happened. When I was little, maybe 11 or 12, I was up at my grandparents' in front of the house playing with my brother. We were just doing kid stuff, playing with sticks and stuff like that. Suddenly we heard a cackle coming from the corner behind the garage. Not a laugh. There was no joy to it at all. It was howl, like the most evil thing I could think of. My brother heard it too. He asked what it was, and I told him to go inside. He did, and I stupidly started walking toward the noise. As I got close, something tall and slender ran off into the woods and out of sight. This happened 2 other times when I was younger, once again with my brother and once when I was alone. Fast forward to a few months ago. I'm now 17, pretty experienced with hunting and bushcraft. I was up on the property to visit my grandparents. My grandfather has now got cancer, and I decided to just go for some fresh air. As I walk out, I remember how much I missed the woods around the property. I decided to walk into the dense part of the woods. And after about a couple of minutes, I'm pretty far from the house. I hear that same cackle. The memories come back. A wave of fear rushes over me. I think to myself, there's got to be some reasonable explanation. There's some mountain lions and an occasional bear, but those do not make this sound. I heard a rustle and walk towards it. I come into the clearing and the smell hits me. It smells like death. I'm 6'1", pretty well built, and I will admit what I saw made my knees buckle. There was a paw, some sort of canine paw, in the middle of the clearing. I bent down to examine it. The fur was still on it, but the arm had been cleaned to the bone. I shivered, and when I rose, I saw it. That's the only way to describe it. It almost looked human, but its proportions were stretched, distorted. It was hidden behind a tree watching me, and when I saw it, it ran and stopped like it wanted me to follow. I didn't. I ran back to the house as fast as I could. I could hear it foul a little, then stop. When I got back, I sat on the porch and threw up. Since then, I've gone back a few times. Every time I do, I see it. If I walk towards it, it runs but stays just within sight, like it's leading me on. I don't know what to do. I think I may go back out after it. I would appreciate any advice you could give me, Jeff. So after that happened, I went back. I heard the same cackle call once again. I saw movement, so I went to follow. After a half a mile later, I stopped because there were deep claw marks in the trees. Several small trees had been ripped out by their roots, and there was a deer antler. The antler was absolutely mangled. There were large teeth marks on it. I decided the best choice was to turn around and run. I'm glad I did. I heard a scream and running after me, but once again, it stopped when I got towards my grandfather's property. This is some messaging from Facebook Messenger. Jeff, me and my family went to visit my grandfather. He's getting on in years and, like I said, going through cancer treatment. So, we visit to take care of him and my grandma. While we were visiting for 2 days, he told me he had something for me and took me to his garage. He gave me a shotgun, a beautiful wooden Winchester, and said that he can't really use it anymore. Well, last night we heard something moving his trash cans. He said it must have been the bear. Went through his trash, and he was worried about it killing the dogs. I told him that I would go scare it off. I grabbed the gun just in case and went out to the back closest to the woods to scare it off. No, I wasn't even thinking about my other experiences at this point. It was there, behind the cans. When my headlamp shone on it, it ran. But I got a look at its face, a good look. It had dark, sunken-in eyes, human-like face, but its teeth, like long nails. When it ran, with long, thin limbs, strides, I could hear it, but then it stopped, just within the tree line. I couldn't see it, but the steps stopped, and it screamed again. After it screamed, I ran inside. I don't know what to do. My family heard it, but my grandfather said, well, he had heard it before. He didn't know what it was. The scream, as best as I can describe, was a mix of a mountain lion dying and a tortured woman. We convinced my grandfather to go to the hospital close to us. It'd be easier to take care of him. And I don't really want to go back. I figured since he's safe, I don't have to go back for a while. Now, I must have misplaced some of the paperwork through the years of having this, because this is from 2019. Wow. And the last kind of communication I remember having with him was that he had went to his grandfather's house, and the back part of the garage door, like the door in the back of the garage, I believe going in the house, was torn off, and it looks like something had kind of ransacked the area of that house. I haven't talked to him since, but now that I'm reading this and looking this over, I'm going to give him a message, email, whatever, and see if I can get any more info on what happened. It's been 2 years, so who knows? Let's keep our fingers crossed on that, because this was pretty terrifying when he and I were talking. I talked to him on the phone once when he was out in the woods, and he had said he was feeling really, really creepy, very eerie feeling. I actually told him, I'm like, dude, go back to the house. Go back to the house, brother. Today's fourth subscriber submission was sent to me via Facebook Messenger, not an email. So it's going to be a little kind of harder to read, but we'll get through it, right? Hey bro, I apologize for taking so long in sending this to you. Here is a recount of my encounter. It happened last October. I still remember each and every detail clearly, despite the year-long gap. During a vacation, my close friend, who I've known for over 15 years, had asked me to tend to his home while he was away. His property consisted of a long stretch of acreage in the backyard, a tree line consisting of Palo Verde trees, Joshua trees, and mesquite. Weeks prior to the encounter, a neighbor of my friend had come to us during the night. Her medium-sized dog had vanished. Initially, we dismissed it to a coyote or even a mountain lion, as the disappearances of pets was not uncommon when it comes to these predators. On the night of the encounter, I had arrived at my friend's two-story home at 11:30, maybe closer to midnight. Crescent moon and overcast night, the clouds and the tree branches had created a kind of eerie darkness. Without flashlights, there was no way you could simply look into the brush and survey anything that sat within the shadows. I do remember that the coyotes seemed rather active that night. There were anxious howls and yips followed by barking. In his front yard, their typical cottontail rabbit were nowhere to be found. Usually they're in large numbers, as they found bedding in his well-maintained lawn. After checking all the rooms were undisturbed and secure, I gradually made my way to the backyard. Here he had chairs and tables set up for when he entertained guests. Luckily, he also had security lights rigged. See, vagrants were common. They would travel from the wash, the riverway, and find their way into pool rooms of those in the neighborhood. While checking to make certain all was well, I caught sight of movement just near the edge of the tree line. Believing this to be an aforementioned vagrant, I shouted out, expecting a response or to see someone flee. Instead, I heard a deep growl. At first, I thought this could possibly be a stray dog or even a coyote. Shouting again, another growl was given in response, this one much deeper, more of a bellow that sounded like the mix of a dog's snarl and a human groan. The sound traveled right through my chest and roused a fear that I have never known before. Now at this point I wanted to run, but my brain was rooted me in this place. From the tree line there was a noxious odor that I can only describe as a combination of feces, wet fur, and rotting meat. Through luck, or the grace of God, the security lights triggered on. From the branches of a tall mesquite tree, I caught the glimpse of a fiery amber eyes staring back at me. Still incapable of moving, I could only watch as whatever this was slowly moved forward from the shadows. It was at this point that I feel it must have known what security lights were used for. Halting at the utmost edge of the tree line, this thing slowly lumbered forward, only rise up on its hind quarters. Caught eye to eye with this thing. I remember hearing a sickening pop crackle noise when it stood erect. There was a gnashing sound that I knew was this thing grinding its teeth together. Avoiding eye contact as best as I could, I simply stood rooted in place, not daring to attempt to flee, or so much as a scream. This thing and I stared for a time that felt like a stretch on for eternity. Its ears rose and fell, its lips peeled back, allowing it to bare its fangs. All also suddenly it charged forward, only to stop within 15 feet. We measured the distance the following day. Now, either this thing simply wanted to see how I would react, or it was gauging whether or not I was a threat. Seemingly satisfied, the creature slowly backed through the brush. All the while I could hear branches and twigs being snapped before the thing was out of view and gone. Today's final subscriber submission from California. Hey Jeff, about cryptid type creatures, sometimes we just have a feeling that something is around us even before we even know what it could be. I grew up in Green Valley, and one in Northern California. Our house was less than 200 feet from the Green Valley Fault. The homes were built around a golf course and country club. The construction was also built on an Indian burial ground. I remember when they were doing construction on a new subdivision on the south side that they had to halt construction because they had dug up Indian graves. The local historical society had to remove the things before they could continue with construction. When I was 9, I saw something. It was about 7 feet tall, and it was walking across the bridge over a creek where I used to rescue pollywogs, tadpoles, from the almost dried up creek, something that did it every year. And I have a strange and wonderful story about one year when I was doing this. I was 7 or 8. I was in the almost dried up creek on the other side of the bridge. I was trying to rescue pollywogs from the almost dried up pockets of water in the creek bed, but I was doing more harm than good. There was so little water, therefore the sand kept caving in around the pollywogs. I finally knew that the situation was hopeless. I stood up crying. My eyes were closed. I shouted out, "Oh God, please help me." Right after that, I felt water flowing around my feet and my ankles, and it was working its way up my legs. I opened my eyes to absolute astonishment. There was water all around me. The creek had a flowing stream. Pollywogs were free and all swimming or floating downstream. They were going to get to a section of the creek that is fed by the spring year-round and grow up to be frogs. I scrambled out of the water and ran home. Second house from the creek. I was yelling over and over again, "It's a miracle, it's a miracle." My grandmother was taking care of us, so my parents must have been on a trip somewhere. I remember my older brother saying, "They just let water out of the dam." The dam was at the north end of the valley, miles away in the direction of the mountain. Twin sisters. No one else could convince me that this was not a miracle. The timing was perfect. Sorry, got sidetracked. Now back to what I was sharing. It was getting dark. The figure was 7 feet tall, walking across the bridge over a creek where I was rescuing the pollywogs. Tall figure was thin, all white and kind of glowing. We were curious to see who this or what this could be. We ran as fast as we could up the bank of the creek and up the dirt road to the paved road. All this time I was looking at this figure while it was crossing the bridge, and now it was walking on a paved road. We were all heading in the same direction, and for just a moment the leaves on the low-hanging branch of the tree blocked my view of this figure. We got to the road and it was gone. It didn't have time to go anywhere away from the road. We were scared and ran back to my house. My friend was also frightened to walk back that way, to cut across the golf course to get to her house. So my mom had to drive her around the side of the golf course to get her home. I don't remember going with them. I think I was too afraid to go outside for the rest of the night. Our house was by the 6th green of the golf course, so I played a lot of golf in the early morning, late afternoon, and into the evening before dark. I was usually the only one on the golf course at those times of the day. Hills and wooded areas were all around one side of the golf course. I remember always being afraid to go around any of those areas. And when I did, I was always looking over my shoulders, walking fast with a golf club in one hand. I never knew what I was afraid of. I just had the feeling that I was being watched. About 20 years later, my father bought a walnut ranch in the middle of California. It was there where I was attacked twice by someone or something who grabbed my lower leg both times with something that felt like a clamp. I kept wondering what that clamp was. I mean, who carries a clamp around with them, ready to attack someone in the middle of the night into someone else's property? Whoever it was, or whatever it was, also had to have jumped a 6-foot-tall fence to get into the area. The first attack, I was at the ranch by myself. My parents spent half of every month at their other house on the lake in Northern California near the Oregon border. I was never afraid of being there alone because I had lots of dogs that I had rescued, mostly from small pounds around schools where I worked as a speech and language pathologist. However, I did not have my very protective 120-pound 13-year-old Rhodesian Ridgeback Doberman mix, Wolfgang, because he had died a few months before this. It was very late, possibly around midnight. I heard all the dogs barking out back in the kennel area. They never barked unless something was wrong or unless something or someone was out there. There were new floodlights that I could plug in to see what was going on in the kennel area or in the orchard behind the kennel. I walked out there and into the small building to plug in the floodlights. I heard something behind me and behind the wall to the right. I froze. Then my lower leg was grabbed by something that felt like a clamp. I still could not move. I've never been able to remember what I heard, but whatever it was, I do remember feeling that if I did not use every ounce of strength that I had into being able to move to get away, I was going to be killed. Finally, I could move. I threw my arms into the air and screamed and yelled, "No!" Then, with the other leg, began kicking and kicking until the clamp let go of my leg. I never saw what had a hold of my leg. It was behind me to the right, where a doorway opened into a small room in the small building, and low, possibly on the ground. As soon as the clamp was released from my leg, I turned and ran as fast as I could to the house, which was 70 yards away. I got into the house and locked the door. Then I ran all around the house and locked the doors and windows. I walked back into the family room, catching my breath and still trying to figure out what had just happened. I turned the floodlights on to light up the blacktop area between the house and the kennel. I stood there looking out the window of the back door. My father had covered all the windows in the family room with acrylic plastic because my dog Wolfgang, who had previously died, used to jump at the windows and break them if a stranger was outside of the house. Therefore, I did not worry about anyone trying to break in by breaking the windows. For some reason, I stepped outside of the back door, closed the door behind me, and looked out toward the back, thinking, what just happened there? Then my eyes got big and my jaw dropped. The startling realization I had just locked myself out of the house. Quickly I said to myself, where are my keys? They're in my van. Where's my van? It's out there. It's parked near the area I had just ran from. With the blacktop area still lit up from the floodlights, I quickly ran to my van, got in, and locked the doors. Started the engine. I felt empowered. I thought, okay, where are you? Come out. I will plow right into you with my van. I thought all of that to myself as I went forward and backwards in my van several times. I was daring whoever or whatever it was to come out. I was ready to run them down. That gives you an idea of how much adrenaline I had going through my system. Then I backed the van up as close to the house as possible, got out, locked it, and ran to the door. Quickly unlocked the door, got inside, and locked that door. There was a golf club, my putter, in the corner. I picked it up and slept on a pad in the family room floor, with it in my hand for the rest of the night. The next morning, a dog, who I had rescued from a small pound I named Kristen, was waiting for me outside the back door. She had to have climbed a 6-foot chain-link fence to get out of the yard out back there. Her yard was by the small building where I had been grabbed during the night. She had seen what happened to me. She never let anyone get too close to me after that, always slinking in between me and anyone. She had also seen something else. Whatever attacked me had killed some half-grown shepherd puppy mix. Their throats had been slit or ripped open, I don't know. I just about died from what happened to them. I never would have assumed anyone could deliberately do such an evil thing. I assumed it was done in retaliation for having kicked whoever or whatever had grabbed me. Several months later, during the summer, it was 11 p.m., when the dogs out back in the kettle area were barking again. My parents were home. My dad was in bed. My mom was watching the news that had just started. I went out back to see what they were barking at. I was afraid to walk into the kennel area, so I went under the cottonwood tree on the outside of the kennel, where I had a ladder by the fence. I climbed the ladder to look over the fence into the kennel area. All of a sudden, my lower leg, this time the other leg, was grabbed again by something that felt like a clamp. I immediately thought to myself, it's the same clamp as before. Now, the clamps are in parentheses because whatever was grabbing her was a very hard, almost like a human hand cannot grab. It was just a massive force. So when I say clamp, it is in parentheses. She's not referring to like a wood clamp. She is and she isn't. The power, the force, the pressure. The last thing I remember was being pulled backwards off the ladder. I must have fallen, but I don't remember landing. I was knocked out. I don't know whether it was from the fall or something else. When I woke a half an hour later, I know this because the 11 o'clock news had ended. I was all tied up with orange twine that had previously been on the ground area. My upper jean pant leg was torn. My leg was bleeding. I thought it was strange that my heavy jean pants could have been torn like that. I could hear rustling somewhere on the other side of the fence. I was afraid that something was returning. I managed to stretch the twine so that I could get out of it. I ran into the house. The news had just finished. My mom was half asleep. I dropped to the floor in front of her chair in total hysteria, crying about what had just happened. I didn't talk about it to my parents. I am not sure why, but I think I didn't want them to worry about leaving me alone. I was never afraid to be out there at night until that year when I was attacked twice. The fences around and between the house, outbuildings, yards, blacktop no longer made me feel safe and secure. Something was able to get over them. Coyotes run through the property and the surrounding properties every night. I could hear them coming from miles. I respect all animals' rights to live and thrive. But when you hear coyotes coming your way at 3 a.m, it's eerie, especially when you have feral cats and kittens, and especially after I heard coyotes on the kill behind the garage one night, and I had to jump into a vehicle and blare the horn, trying them to stop to get away from. I never saw the litter of half-grown cats again, and I had appointments for the vet to be spayed and neutered. I also think they got my 10-year-old cat Cedar, who would sneak about during the day and play with the kittens. One day I saw him at 6:30 watching Mom feed the dogs, and then I went back to get him and he was gone. I never saw him again. I'd never heard of Dogman until I started looking at stuff online a couple years ago, and I had only heard about, but didn't think much about it, a Bigfoot from my mother's friend, who was a newspaper reporter in Eureka, California at the time of the famous Bigfoot sighting of Patty, and she had written articles about it for the newspaper that I had remembered seeing framed and hanging on the wall in the hall of her house. I can still remember the feeling I got in the backyard of her home in the rural area outside of the towns around there. I had a feeling like they were all around. It was the creepiest thing that I don't remember ever having since the day on the golf course around those hills. I keep thinking that a dogman ran with the coyotes because of the unexplainable things that happened there. When I put dogman into unexplainable as being possible explanation, the unexplainable becomes explainable, and I keep wondering what that clamp was that grabbed my lower leg both times, long claws, and if it was a human, why? So pretty much what she's saying is, bam, like what I said, not clamps, claws. I had seen a lot of videos about Dogman, Bigfoot, other type of cryptids, and about the world in general during the last 2 years since my mom had passed. After she passed, I was alone on that ranch for a year, with not much to do except take care of the feral cats on the ranch. I took to YouTube a lot. Then my brother and I sold the ranch and found a house and property about 35 miles south where I moved. Wouldn't you know it, that I bought a place about 6 miles from where a rancher and his crew saw 5 dogman creatures by the river that ran through his orchard. His crew quit, moved to Nevada. I had heard that cryptid-type creatures will travel waterways. There's something about my property that I did not see online before I bought it. The back property line is bordered by a canal that comes from the river. One night, when a person was helping me move stuff from the ranch to this place, we got here to find that the back gate was open and that knee-high weeds along the outside of the fence had been trampled down, like something had been lying there. Someone or something had to have pulled the fence post away. In December, I bought a German Shepherd puppy for company in Kentucky who trains personal protection dogs. Around December or January, with the fence and then a personal protection dog, I am hoping to live calmer, no adrenaline life, whoever or whatever might be trying to bother me. As the owner of a fence fabrication company said, they can move on down to someone else's place.
There you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed tonight's second bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I also hope to see you all at the live stream, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for supporting the channel. It's your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.